It's time to do a two-column proof. Here we're going to prove a couple of triangles are congruent. We look at the proof itself. We have some given information. We're given a couple of sides congruent, a couple of angles congruent. We want to try to show that triangle LMN is congruent to triangle LON. So that's where we're headed, and I've already written out the given information. You have to write out the given information and write it as given. So, and then it's always helpful to go over here and put your marks in. So LM and LO are marked congruent. LM, LO, MN, ON, marked congruent. Angle M, angle O, marked congruent. MLN, MLN, which is right there, is marked congruent with OLN right there. So I also like to mark down if I have sides or angles. Remember, 6 things are what we're trying to show. Okay, so we have a side and a side marked. So I have 2 sides already marked. I have 2 angles already marked. Can I show another angle congruent? Can I show another side congruent? So the side that's not being shown congruent is LN. But if you look at it, LN is actually a side of both triangles. If we split this triangle apart, these 2 triangles apart, and drew them so they weren't touching, side LN would be on both triangles. So LN corresponds with itself. And so we can say that LN is congruent to itself because of something called the reflexive property, which you will use a lot of in triangle proofs. So the reflexive property tells me that LN is congruent to itself. I will mark that with 3 marks. I will add an S to that particular graphic. I have to find one more thing, the angle. The angle that's not marked is over here. Is there a way to show that they are congruent? And the answer is yes. It came from our notes. Remember, angle MNL and angle, let's see, MNL and ONL, they have to be congruent because, remember, we had the third angles postulate, which said that if 2 angles of a triangle are congruent to 2 other angles of a different triangle, then the third angles have to be congruent. So that's what we're going to use, the third angles theorem. That's what it's called. And finally, that's our other A. Since all 6 things are congruent, we can say that the triangle MNL is congruent to triangle LON, and the reason is all corresponding, how do I spell corresponding? There we go. All corresponding parts are congruent. Let you read it now. Are congruent. And that's very important to understand. If you can get all the corresponding parts congruent, you've got the triangles congruent. Later on, we're going to have to prove triangles are congruent to show that some corresponding parts are congruent. That's something we call CPCTC. It sounds weird. It's coming up later on in the proof, in another proof, and in another section. We will talk about that one at another time.